I gave 23 years of my life to Atlas Freight Haulers. 23 years of early mornings, late nights, blizzards, breakdowns, missed birthdays, and meals eaten behind the wheel. My name is Derek Miles, and trucking wasn't just a job. It was my life, my pride, my purpose. When I started in '02, the company had just 10 trucks and a makeshift office inside a converted gas station. The owner, Rick Sanders, was an old-school handshake-is-a-contract type of guy. He gave me my first rig, a rust-covered Peterbilt, and told me, "You run hard, I'll pay fair." And he did. I watched that company grow. 10 trucks became 50. We got new trailers, new terminals, new dispatch systems. I trained rookies. I helped open the Ohio yard. I drove over 1.8 million miles without a single accident. I even declined a management role because I loved being out on the road more than sitting behind a desk. But everything changed the day Rick retired. He sold Atlas Freight to a logistics firm out of Chicago, a big corporate machine that treated drivers like numbers on a spreadsheet. Within 2 months, they appointed Logan Barrett, a 30-something MBA with shiny shoes and zero trucking experience. As our new general manager, Logan came in hot, spouting about efficiency audits and profit per mile analysis. He started cutting corners, slashed maintenance budgets, removed overtime, fired the old terminal supervisor and replaced him with his cousin. I didn't like the guy from the start. He had that smug, clipped tone like he thought every trucker was a dumb hillbilly. I kept my head down, hoping I'd survive the shakeup. After all, I was a senior driver with a flawless record. But Logan had other plans. One rainy Tuesday, I pulled into the yard after hauling 1,200 miles over 3 days. I was soaked, exhausted, and ready to catch a nap in my sleeper. Instead, I found a manila envelope taped to my locker. Inside was a termination letter. Due to restructuring and cost reduction strategies, your employment is no longer required. No meeting, no warning. Just a letter and a cold shoulder. I stood there staring at it for a full minute, heart pounding. My hands trembled, and not from the rain. After all I'd given, this was how it ended? Logan walked by with a cup of overpriced coffee, barely sparing me a glance. "You'll get your final check in the mail," he said flatly. "Good luck." Asterisk, I drove home in silence that afternoon, my rig empty. My heart even emptier. It was a 2-hour drive from the yard back to my place in rural Indiana. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about way stations, dot logs, or my next fuel stop. All I could think about was how I was going to tell my wife, Carla. We'd been together since we were 19. She knew the grind, knew the sacrifices. Hell, half our marriage had been long distance across highways and truck stops. I'd always promised her that when I retired, we'd buy a little cabin up near Lake Monroe and finally slow down. That dream felt a million miles away now. When I walked through the door, soaked and sagging under the weight of defeat, she took one look at me and knew. "What happened, Derek?" she asked gently, putting down her knitting. "They let me go," I said. "New boss, cost cuts, no warning." She didn't speak for a moment. She just came over and held me. We sat at the kitchen table for a long time in silence. Rain tapped against the windows like a slow funeral drum. Eventually she asked, "What are you going to do now?" I didn't have an answer. The next few weeks were a blur. I applied to other trucking companies, but the market was flooded. The few offers I did get were garbage low pay, junk equipment, and no respect. One place even asked me to start as a trainee. A trainee after 23 years and nearly 2 million miles? I nearly punched the wall. I dipped into our savings to keep the lights on, skipped a mortgage payment, canceled Netflix. Carla picked up extra hours at the local pharmacy, standing on her feet all day, even though her knees had been shot since 2019. And worst of all, I started to feel worthless. Some mornings I'd wake up and stare at the driveway where my old rig used to sit. It was like losing a part of myself. The phone didn't ring, no dispatches, no early morning coffee from Speedway. Just the sound of a man trying not to drown in silence. But then something changed. One evening, I met up with B.O., an old friend who had left Atlas 2 years earlier to start his own independent freight business. He ran 3 trucks out of a warehouse in Jeffersonville and focused on specialized hauls hazmat. refrigerated and oversized loads. He heard what happened and said, "You got done dirty, real dirty." But I got a crazy idea. I leaned in. He continued, "I've got more contracts than I can handle. You've got the experience, contacts, and know-how. What if we team up? Split costs, split profits. You buy or lease your own truck, and we haul under my authority until you get your own. We build something." My first instinct was hesitation. Start over, at my age? Go independent? The idea was terrifying. But then I thought about Logan, about that smug smirk, about the manila envelope, and I said, "Let's do it." Bio helped me get started. He loaned me a little cash to get things rolling, just enough for a down payment on a used Freightliner, Cascadia, that had seen better days but still had life left in her. I named her Carla's Voice because if I was going to hear anything in my head while crossing state lines, it might as well be my wife's wisdom keeping me straight. Asterisk, I spent the next few weeks busting my tail. Asterisk, filed paperwork to register. As an LLC, Miles Ahead Logistics got my DOT number, bought insurance, which nearly choked me with the cost. Asterisk learned how to bid on load boards, track expenses, deal with brokers, and even build my own invoices. Asterisk, it was exhausting, but it felt real. Mine. Asterisk, BO let me pick up overflow loads from his contracts at first mostly. Medical supplies and temperature-sensitive shipments to rural hospitals. I was working 16-hour days again, but this time I wasn't building someone else's dream. I was building mine. Asterisk one day. I hauled 11,000 pounds of refrigerated vaccines down to Mobile, Alabama. The drop-off went smooth, but on the way back, I heard a familiar name crackle over the CB radio from another driver. Asterisk, y'all hear about Atlas Freight in Ohio? Word is their new management's bleeding them dry. I didn't say anything, but my ears burned. Asterisk, 3 days later, Bio forwarded me an email from one of his old clients. Asterisk, heard you're working with Derek Miles now. That's the guy we wanted to hire years ago, but Atlas kept him locked. And can he do dedicated lanes? Asterisk, Bio added, told you still had juice. Asterisk, that same week, we landed a 6-month contract with a food distributor, which meant regular routes, better cash flow, and stability. I hired a dispatcher Culla, a single mom from my church who knew spreadsheets better than most Harvard grads. Then I leased a second truck and brought on another driver, Ricky, who had also been fired from Atlas during Logan's cost savings initiative. It was like building a family from the wreckage. We weren't big, but we were smart, hungry, honest, and we didn't cut corners. Meanwhile, whispers about Atlas grew louder. Asterisk, drivers were quitting. Maintenance crews were protesting late payments. DOT violations were racking up like unpaid bar tabs. Apparently, Logan's plan to cut maintenance had backfired badly. Trucks were breaking down mid-route. Clients were canceling contracts. Rumors of lawsuits started floating around. Then came the call I never expected. It was Rick Sanders, the original founder of Atlas Freight, the man who had hired me all those years ago. Asterisk, Derek, he said, I heard what they did to you. I'm sorry, it wasn't supposed to go like that. Asterisk, I didn't say much. He continued. Asterisk, I also heard you're running your own operation now. Doing damn well, too. Pause. I need a favor. I've got a friend owns a grocery chain across 3 states. He needs reliable haulers, and I told him you're the man. Interested? Rick's friend was named Howard Vicks, the CEO of a Midwestern grocery chain called Vicks Marta, quiet empire of 88 stores spread across Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio. His old carriers had been missing deadlines and overcharging. Rick told him, call Derek, he'll do it right. Howard and I met in a modest diner just outside Terre Haute. He looked me over the way old-school businessmen do, like he was measuring my word before my handshake. I don't care how big your operation is, he said. I care if you deliver on time, without excuses, and with respect. I nodded. That's the only way I know how to run. We signed a 6-month trial, 3 lanes a week Bloomington to Akron, then down to Louisville. It was more than just money. It was volume, exposure, and trust. Kayla nearly cried when she saw the numbers. We scaled up. And I brought in 2 more trucks. I hired another dispatcher, an old warehouse buddy named Trey. I even moved our little office into a proper storefront downtown, still modest but professional. For the first time in months, I felt like a man again. A builder, a provider. My wife smiled at me differently, now proud. Not worried. Then came the email. Subject line: Urgent FMCSA audit alert. Atlas Freight in violation. I opened the attached link and stared. Logan's kingdom was crumbling. DOT inspectors had shut down 4 trucks in 1 week. Drivers were quitting mid-haul. Their biggest customer, Midland Chemical Freight, had dropped them due to late deliveries and unprofessional conduct. A leaked photo circulated online showing one of their rigs on the side of I-74 cargo spilled. Axles twisted, and the cherry on top, Logan was being investigated for fraud. Word was, he'd been skimming maintenance funds and faking compliance. Logs to prop up his bonuses. The same man who fired me to save money was now losing millions. I didn't say a word publicly, but inside, it felt like watching a storm pass over the house that once kicked me out, only to see it fall into ruin from its own rot. 2 weeks later, I was fueling up in Cincinnati when I saw Logan standing by a Greyhound station with a duffel bag and a Bluetooth headset dangling from one ear. He looked thinner, pale, sweating in the collar. Like a man who'd finally realized you can't cheat the road. He saw me, and I swear he recognized the truck. Carla's voice. He stared. I stared. He opened his mouth, but I rolled the window up and pulled away. I didn't need to say a word. Let the silence speak for itself. Success is a strange thing when you're clawing your way up. Every win feels like a lifeline. Every new route, every signed contract, every glowing review, it builds something inside you. Confidence, pride, maybe even a little fire you forgot you had. But once you're up there, you realize you're carrying more than yourself. You're carrying everybody who believed in you. By the time the VicSmart contract hit month 4, Miles Ahead Logistics had grown to 7 trucks, 3 dispatchers, 2 mechanics, and a rotating roster of trusted drivers, many of them former Atlas employees Logan had thrown away like trash. Carla handled payroll. Kayla was promoted to operations manager. We moved to a warehouse office with a yard behind it, nothing flashy, but ours. And then it happened. One morning, just before 7 a.m., Carla walked into the office holding her phone. Her face looked puzzled. "You're not going to believe this," she said, handing it to me. It was an email from Logan Barrett, greater than subject, business proposal, meeting request. Derek, I'm reaching out in the hopes that we can speak. I made mistakes at Atlas, big ones. You've built something incredible, and I believe there's an opportunity here, perhaps even a merger or acquisition. I have contacts, resources. I think together we could make something huge. I hope you'll at least consider it. Logan, I laughed out loud. The same man who once fired me without a word now wanted to merge. After destroying a company, ruining good people's livelihoods, and treating truckers like disposable parts. I closed the phone and tossed it onto the desk. No deal, I said. Carla nodded, but Logan wasn't done. A week later, I got a letter from a lawyer. He was trying to sue me for client poaching and interference with existing business contracts. Never mind that every client I had either came through hard work, clean referrals, or the wreckage he left behind. Bo was furious. Kayla was worried. Even I started to doubt for a moment. What if he dragged me into court and bled me dry, even if I won? But then Rick Sanders stepped in. The founder of Atlas, now semi-retired, showed up at our office one afternoon holding a box of files. "I kept everything," he said. "Emails, contracts, memos, Logan's lies, his cover-ups. You ever need to go to court, I got your back." Turns out Rick had been watching the whole time. He said something I'll never forget. Greater than Logan inherited a machine he didn't understand. You built one from nothing." The lawsuit never made it to court. Logan withdrew it quietly, probably realizing he'd lose badly, and that was the last I ever heard from him. 1 year later, Miles Ahead Logistics was running 12 trucks and 3 vans. We had contracts with VicSmart Midwest Brewery needing weekly keg deliveries, a chain of hardware stores across 4 states, a medical supply distributor that trusted only us after Atlas collapsed, and the biggest win, We bought a piece of Atlas Freight's old terminal, the same one where I found the manila envelope on my locker door. We turned it into our main operations hub, repainted the walls, cleaned the floor, put in real lockers, a proper break room, and even a wall full of Polaroids showing every driver, every truck, every success. One photo stood out, me holding the keys to Carla's Voice, smiling beside Bio, Kayla, Ricky, and Carla herself. Underneath, someone had scribbled a message in marker, greater than "He fired me to save money," within a month. I was saving everything worth keeping. The lot is quiet just before sunrise. Frost clings to the grass, and exhaust plumes curl in the cold air as the first rig of the morning rumbles to life. Inside the office of Miles Ahead Logistics, there's a fresh pot of coffee brewing, a faint hum of dispatch radio, and the soft creak of a worn leather chair. Derek Miles sits in it, not as the man who was fired, but as the man who built something lasting. The company now operates 27 trucks, 4 terminals across the Midwest, and employs over 80 people, many of them folks who were once cast aside like he was. There's even a scholarship fund in his late wife Carla's name, helping children of drivers pay for college or trade school. Derek doesn't drive much anymore. His knees aren't what they used to be. But every Friday, he walks the yard, meets with his drivers, and tells the new hires the same thing. This isn't just a company. It's a second chance for all of us. In the hallway of the main terminal, there's a framed picture of the very first truck, Carla's Voice. It's faded now, but underneath the photo is a plaque, greater than "Fired to save money, rebuilt to save people." Every year on the anniversary of his firing, Derek brings in hot food for the whole team. He tells the story not out of bitterness, but to remind them what resilience looks like. Sometimes he smiles and says, "If I ever see Logan again, I'll buy him a coffee." Not to forgive, just to thank him for the push. He still wakes early, still wears the same trucker cap, still walks with purpose, but now there's peace behind his eyes. He didn't just survive the storm, he became the man who learned to drive through it. ***, the end.